right, good morning, good morning. This is just a little live I decided to jump on and do. I did not um, put a notice out or anything. I just wanted to talk about it because I think it's important. There's a little situation that's happened in Texas, and this is a very old case. I think it needs to be discussed because what we're going to find is in a lot of cases, Texas has got it wrong. And this affects people's lives. So I'm going to give people a couple minutes to come in. I'm going to play a little music. I'm going to get myself together for a minute, and then we're going to get started. So hang on just a second. Hang on, guys. Here we go. Let's have a little music while we get ourselves pulled together. Mhm. Come on.
Kenny Red Flash with a turbo kick. Little Rado, yeah, the name's on fire. Burning up the road, taking dreams higher. 0 to 100, no time to stall. Every frame, every post, yeah, he does it all. From the streets to the screen, he's got that glow. Welcome to the ride, it's Lil Rado. Red line dreams, we don't slow down. Engine roar when we hit your town. Makes it start so sharp like a midnight show. All gas, no brakes, little no. All gas, no brakes, little no. Drift through life with a fearless tone. Every move custom, every vibe is on. Not just a car, it's a way of life. Precision, passion, cutting like a knife. Headlights blaze through the doubt and fear. He's the one they watch, the one they cheer. So buckle up tight, let the legend grow. You're in the fast lane with Lil.
All right. Hang on a minute. We are ready to get going. I had to open the gate and let my little dogs get their butts out in the yard. So, hey, Cinderella, so good to see you, girl. Yeah, listen, I'm having to use my avatar for just a couple more days. I had a little bit of maintenance on my little forehead, and it bruised a little bit. So I'm not really showing myself, but we're going to talk about this anyway. Just a little explanation. I don't like using my avatar, but that is why I'm using it. So let's go ahead and talk about this case. It's pretty interesting, and it's pretty sad. And it just goes to show you how many times they get it wrong, and how long it takes to correct these people's lives after this happens. It is a horrific situation. And what happens then is here we are. Listen, this happened in, I believe, 1991. Let me pull this back up for a second. In 1991. And this case has been going on and on and on. Finally, now Texas has fully exonerated the original 4 people that they blamed the murders on. But they've been in prison. They've been in solitary confinement. They've been on death row. They've been in all these situations that absolutely affects the rest of their life. And what do they get what do they get for it? What do they get? A record, a record that's been reversed, but you still got people side-eyeing them because the case is still officially unresolved, which is sickening, actually. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Let me pull up. We have this new little feature on StreamYard. It's kind of a little StreamYard advertisement for anybody who's thinking about getting a channel or has a channel. They have something called it's called Notes, but what it really is a teleprompter. I think it's so interesting. It allows us to read our prepared information from our screen, but you don't see it, but we see it. So it's kind of, StreamYard's getting a little bit higher quality here, getting a little better. It's expensive, but I think it's kind of worth it. Now, what's going to happen is while I read this, I'm not able to see chat because it will not let me split them. Okay, so just a little notice about that. Let me make sure that the music is not too loud because I know that's constantly a problem over here on StreamYard. It creeps up on its own. Pretty soon you got people texting, hey, your music's too loud. I can't even hear you speak. So let me take care of that. I think that takes care of that. All right, y'all ready to get the show going? Let's get the show going. I'm coming back at noon with a planned show. And it also involves a Texas case where it could be wrong. Is it wrong? Well, it's about Robert Robertson. And his conviction was overturned as well. There's been a lot of controversy about him. He's in and out of the in and out of the news. But see, one of the things that happens with these cases when the original people have had their cases overturned or they have been exonerated, they live the rest of their life with people looking at them thinking, oh no, Texas got it right. Texas got it right. Y'all were guilty. Y'all were guilty. You know you were guilty. You just legally maneuvered yourself out of it. See, you see how that affects people, and it's horribly unfair. It is horribly unfair. So I'm gonna get going on this. I'm gonna show you a couple of pictures. I hope I can pull these in. Just bear with me for a second. I've got to share the screen to show them. Hold on. Here we go. Share a screen, and it's gonna be, well, let me do it this way. Okay, because you may or may not be familiar with this situation. I'm hoping you are somewhat familiar. Here we go. Let's go. Let's see. Oh boy. Now look, people. I just went. It's a download. Hello. Let's get the download over here. Now, okay. Now don't do this. Now look, it don't want to. Don't. Okay. We'll do it a different way. We'll just do this a different way then. We'll go over here, and I will. Oh, here it is. Let me show you this. Okay. Open up. Okay, right there. Now we're going to go share our screen from this, if I can. Okay, here. Window. We got to share a window. Here we go. Now, these are the 4 men that we are talking about right here that were wrongly accused and had been sitting in prison, rotting in prison, in solitary confinement and everything else over the 1991 murder shop murders in Austin, Texas. They were 4 innocent little girls, teenagers, just high schoolers working after school, just for a little job. Their lives were taken. And I understand that they wanted to solve this quickly because the families want it solved quickly. I mean, the families of these victims really do run sort of the court system, unfortunately, because they demand answers. So the cops go out and they do all these things, and then they think they have the right person. And then as the years click by and technology gets better, then we find out, no, they did not have the right persons. But anyway, let's get going over here. Let me go ahead and start reading my notes that I have made on this case. So it starts like this. A Texas judge is set to decide whether to formally declare the 4 men innocent in the infamous 1991 Austin yogurt shop murders, a case that terrified the city for decades. One of those men had even been convicted and sent to death row before the case unraveled. If granted, the exoneration would finally close a painful chapter for the men, their families, and the community that lived under the shadow of this brutal, unsolved crime. The push for innocence gained momentum last year when a cold case detectives linked the murders to a different suspect, Robert Eugene Brashears. Now, that's the person that they really believe did it now. A serial offender who had died in 1999 standoff with Missouri police. They can't even go back and clear the case with him because he's now passed away. And let's face it, you cannot really convict a deceased person. Okay. So a declaration of actual innocence wouldn't just clear their names. It would open the door for the men and their families to finally seek financial compensation for the years they spent behind bars. Yes, they can be financially compensated. Not every state allows that, which I think is unethical, actually. To understand the gravity of this moment, you have to go all the way back to 1991. The 4 young girls were, let me show their picture because I think it's important for people to see who we're talking about. Let me go to the window. Oh. Okay, I gotta go back over here. Stop sharing this one, and we'll pull up the other window. Just a moment here. This one right here. Come on, open up. No, now make it big. Just a second, guys. I want to show everybody that's involved. Let me share the screen. I think this case is just always it's just never really sat right. It's unfortunate how this happens to people and it messes up their lives forever. But anyway, here we go. So there are the 4 people, and there's the 4 little girls who were murdered in this horrible tragedy back in 1991. So The four girls are Amy Ayers, I hope I'm saying that correct. She was only 13 years old. Eliza Thomas, and she was 17. And there was the sisters, Jennifer and Sarah Harbinson, ages 17 and 15. They were bound, gagged, and shot inside the I Can't Believe It's yogurt shop, where two of them worked. So they're just hanging out with each other. It's just sad. And it can happen at any time. I mean, a long time ago, remember, we used to let our kids just go out and play anywhere and, just come in by dark. We thought they were all safe. Yeah, you can go over to the mall with your friend Sarah and y'all can hang out for the rest of the afternoon. Just be home by dark. Or, hey, yeah, y'all can walk over to the store and get a Coke. That's fine. Just be home. And they never come home, right? Because it was never safe, but people did not realize it was never safe. People just thought, well, it's okay. So anyway, so at least one victim had been sexually assaulted, and the store was set on fire, destroying crucial evidence. The brutality of this crime just shocked Austin and left the investigation struggling for answers for decades. And I mean decades, this has been going on. The original, it was 1991. It's now 2026. That's a long, long time, okay? Investigators spent years chasing thousands of leads and even several false confessions before finally arresting these four men in 1999. So it happens in 1991, then they're arrested in 1999. They're just going about their life. They realize they've been discussed, they've been talked to, they've been in the office of the sheriff many times, to talk about this and always saying, well, they weren't there, they didn't do it, whatever. And here we go from 1991 to 1999, and then they're finally arrested, and it's blamed on them. Okay. Now, before we go any further, I want to read I'm going to start doing this. Unfortunately, I just have to, because of all the controversy and things that happens on YouTube as far as fair use goes. We're going to start putting our fair use notice publicly as we do our lives, because I think it's important to protect ourselves and our channel from the garbage that goes on with fair use and things like that. Come on now. Where's my pick? Of course, we're going to have this. Ooh, all right, you ready? Okay. All right. Come on. I need this to open up. Okay. Before we begin, I need to provide a formal fair use notice. This live stream may include copyrighted material used strictly for purposes of commentary, criticism, analysis, education, and news reporting as permitted under Section 107 of the United States Copyright Act. Any third-party content referenced or displayed remains the property of the respective copyrighted holders. The use here is transformative and limited to lawful fair use purposes. No copyright infringement is intended. Okay, there's our statement. We got that out of the way. So after they spent years, investigating the situation, chasing thousands of leads and several false confessions, all right? Okay, now, this is before they were arrested in 1999. Robert Springsteen and Michael Scott were convicted largely on confessions they later said were coerced by the police. And I do believe that they are coerced by the police. You have to think, how many times have we sat and watched these investigations and watched these people in these rooms, and we watch these cops just slowly talking them into saying whatever they want them to say, because after hours of sitting in a very uncomfortable chair, you're hungry, you're tired, you got family at home, you got other things you got to, and you're listening to this over and over, and finally you're like, whatever I need to say to get the hell out of here, right? Thinking you're going to be let go. And then what happens? Well, they arrest you because you just admitted that you did it, even though it was a false admission. I mean, you falsely accused your own self, right? You gave a false statement. So this happens many, many times. We've seen it over and over and over. Both convictions were overturned in the mid-2000s. Forrest Welborn was charged but never went to trial after two separate grand juries refused to indict him. And Maurice Pierce spent 3 years in jail before the charges were dropped and he was released. He sat in jail for 3 years waiting for the charges to be dropped because he didn't do anything. He knew he was innocent. He wasn't taking a plea. He knew he didn't do anything. Prosecutors once planned to retry Springsteen and Scott, but their efforts collapsed in 2009. New DNA testing technology that was not available back in 1991 revealed the presence of this unknown male. Okay, with no way to tie the evidence to the original suspects, a judge dismissed the charges. Austin defense attorney Sam Bassett had told it's KITV that a declaration of actual innocence is extremely rare. Okay, but that's what they wanted and that's what they deserved because they did not do this. I think it's important. But it's just extremely rare and not unheard of. It was granted to only very small percentage of people who were once convicted. This case stayed cold for years until 2025. And this is where it gets great. When an HBO documentary just reignited public interest in this case, that spotlight pushed the investigation to take another look. Okay. And in September, they announced a major development and new evidence, along with a fresh review of old evidence that pointed to a different man entirely. So, Robert Eugene Brashears. Who is Robert Eugene Brashears? Well, let's talk about him for a minute. Okay, let me pull him up over here. All right. Oh, hope you're having a beautiful day. Whoops. Okay, let me get this back over here. Robert Eugene Brashears. I know I probably am not saying his name correct, his last name correctly, but we're going to just talk about him anyway. So here is the Wikipedia overview of who this guy is. Robert Eugene Brashears was an American serial killer, a mass murderer, and a serial rapist who committed at least 8 murders in Kentucky, Missouri, South California, and Texas between 1990 and 1998. During his lifetime, Brashears was not identified as a suspect in any of his murders and remained just in the obscurity. So he was never, think about this, guys, he has never been convicted of anything. But later, after finding evidence and going back through the DNA, they have linked him to now 8 murders crossing many states. See how easy that is to happen? Now, in today's world, with the technology and the DNA bases, and CODIS, all of those things, it is not so easy for these people to be able to go under the radar and not be noticed. So I don't know that we'll have very many mass murderers again unless these people are able to just go underground and hide, which we know that happens as well. We know it does. It just does. So let's talk about Robert Eugene Brashears. So I'm going to read his Wikipedia and we'll talk about him. So he was born March 13th, 1958, and he died in January 19th of 1999. So he committed these 8 murders. During his lifetime, Brashears was not identified as a suspect in any of his murders and remained, just in obscurity. He died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound in 1999 to avoid the arrest for an unrelated crime after a standoff with the police. So they had him. It wasn't until decades after his death, due to advances in investigative genetic genealogy, that Brashears was tied to a series of violent crimes. Investigators linked him to several unsolved violent rapes. I'm pretty sure they started out all as rapes with this guy, right? And murders committed against women and young girls. Police in Austin, Texas, later identified Brashears as the perpetrator in the 1991 Austin yogurt shop murders, in which 4 teenagers were murdered. Now, here's the question that's going to arise by this information. You're going to have people that are going to say, well, there's no way that one man could handle 4 people at once. That's not true. That's not what happened. You're going to hear that, right? Because that's what people say. That's what people, they always do. Well, there's no way he did it by himself. No way he did it by himself. Well, yeah, there is a way he did it by himself. Absolutely, there is. So let me pull this back up. Let me see so I can watch this at the same. Okay, there we go. So yeah, it absolutely can happen. So let me take this. I'm going to quit sharing the screen right there. Stop sharing that, and we're going to come back over here. Now, where we were, go back over here. Let's see. Whoops. Okay. So they started re-looking at this case, and they announced a major development with this new evidence. And this came from this documentary. The spotlight pushed investigations to take this other look in September, where they announced that they had found the actual persons by his DNA. And this all pointed to Robert Eugene Brashears. And we now know that he was a serial killer. However, he was never arrested and tried as a serial killer during his lifetime. Okay, so we know that. Let's see. Where were we there? And then here's the things that he did. Okay, so police, he was in a standoff in 1999, but investigators now believe the gun he used matches a casing found inside the yogurt shop. So he had this gun on him from 1991 until the day he took his own life. Most of the time, they discard the weapon. So this is really odd that he kept the weapon. Since the 2018 advanced DNA techniques that had tied him to the 1990 murder in South Carolina, the 1997 rape of a 14-year-old girl in Tennessee, and the 1998 shooting of a mother and daughter in Missouri. This pattern and the physical evidence has led authorities to conclude that he may have been responsible for the Austin yogurt shop murders as well. May have been. Okay, they say may have been. Listen to their wording here. The breakthrough in the Austin case came with DNA found under Amy Ayer's fingernails, and it was matched to Robert Eugene Brashear's, the same man linked to the 1990 murder in South Carolina. Investigators then uncovered something even more striking. Just 2 days after the yogurt shop murders, Brashear's had been stopped at a border checkpoint near El Paso. Inside his stolen car, officers found a pistol matching the caliber used to kill one of the girls in Austin. Detectives also noticed chilling similarities between the yogurt shop murders and Brashear's other known crimes: victims tied up with their own clothing, sexual assault, crime scenes set on fire. The patterns lined up. Brashear's never faced justice, and in 1999 he died by suicide during an hours-long standoff with police at a motel in Kennett, Missouri. They were onto him, but he just took his own life. But even in death, the evidence he left behind is reshaping one of Austin's most haunting cold cases. And sadly, it's always going to be considered a cold case because they never got to try the guy, even though they know all the evidence points toward him. I guess it's just going to stand as a cold case. Now let's talk about what's going to happen to our 4 men. Let me take this off of here. I need to take my teleprompter thing off. Boop, get rid of that. All right. Let's talk about what's going to happen to these 4 guys after they get exonerated. Now, today there was some, let's watch a little bit of YouTube of one of the live streams from a court hearing this morning regarding the exoneration of these guys. So very important to hear what's, to do the right thing by what happened, right? So let me pull it up. Yogurt shop. They had a hearing this morning. Whoops. Come on now. Let's go back over. Not 3 years ago. I want the one. This just happened a few minutes ago. They had this. Okay, let me do this today. Pull this up for you guys. I don't know why this is so hard. I just need to go to my news station here. They had a press conference today. So let's pull it up. Oh, come on. Come on now. Hang on. This is, okay, so this is going to be from yesterday, and this is going to be the KB. Well, actually, there's something going on right now. Let's see. Declare for member. This is KView, so I'm going to have to go and find. Well, I don't know if you can live stream a live stream like that. I guess if you start at the very beginning, you can. So we're going to watch Fox Austin. So hang on just a second, okay? Let's get this over here. I'm going to pull this back, and we're going to have to start from the very beginning. All right, stop. All right. Just put that right there. Now let me go share my screen. Hang on a minute. We're going to share the screen so we can all see what's going on over here. Share the screen. And this is the hearings to clear their names because they've been cleared by the DNA. So here we go. Let me turn this one off and get everything going straight here. All right. And this is going to be full credit to KV. Sorry, guys. Make sure y'all can hear it okay. To Fox 7. So it's going to be full credit to Fox 7. Turn this on and make sure that the sound is on. It's on. There we go. All right, let's watch. Okay. Let's see. Full credit. There is nothing's being said right now. That's why you don't hear anything. They're just kind of waiting. All right, to Fox 7 News. All right. Again, this is going to be used under fair use. It does not like my comment. You can't put full credit to Fox 7 News. This is crazy. All right, we'll do it this way. I've noticed that there's been some changes over here on StreamYard where it's kind of nitpicking the comments being made, which don't really make a lot of sense. But anyway, let's get the sound over here. Now, yes, okay. Let me move it up to where it's actually, hang on a minute. You see, is it going there? Okay, they're getting ready. They're just getting ready to start this. So, okay. Get over here where it's actually speaking. Okay, there we go. Now, here we go. Make sure you can hear it okay. I'm going to turn it up some. Seems a little low. It is very low. Wonder why. It's got to be something to do with their stream. There we go. It's as loud as I can make it. All right, we'll just do this. I'll try to make it loud over here. I hope you can hear it okay. Let me check it out. Woo! Don't want to blow y'all out of the water, but I can barely hear it on my earbud, so I'm kind of concerned whether you can hear it or not. Here, let me check on my phone. Okay.
Style the state of Texas versus Robert Springsteen. D1DC 99.
Okay, you're going to have to turn it up because I can't make it any louder. So sorry, guys.
6381. D1DC 99. 6382. D1DC 99. 6383. Style the state of Texas versus Maurice.
All right, there we go.
DA control number 998429, 998431, 998432.
Maybe I can do it.
998433.
Okay, yeah.
Style the state of Texas versus Forrest.
Oh, not available. All right.
Attorneys, please state your name and enter an appearance for purposes of the record. Thank you.
Oh, I wished it was louder. I have got some bad feed there. Try to turn it up as loud as I can. Let me see if I can turn it up over here. That might be it. This doesn't want to work either. Okay, let me go see what's the problem here. Okay, so apparently they realize they have a problem, and I think that they're working on it. See where it's showing that right there? So let's see. Let's go see. Can't show that part. Make it smaller. Okay, let me go see what's wrong with their feed. I think something is wrong with their feed because it stopped on all sides. So we might have to find a different one. Let's go find a different one to listen to. Okay, so we can't use that one. Well, wait a minute. Is it going to come back? Okay, here. Maybe it's coming back. Okay, there we go. I think now
and you're aware of the investigation and his conclusion that Robert Brasher's committed the yogurt shop murders.
I am.
We'll go back to going back to where we started from instead of where they're at now because we started late.
You will hear from Detective Jackson.
Okay, here we go.
Who was assigned this case?
I think you can hear it now. Thank you.
As a cold case in 2022, and how he worked on this case, he and others with the Austin Police Department worked on this case relentlessly, and how in July of 2025, he submitted a spent .380 shell casing collected from the original crime scene by the Texas Department of Public Safety in 1991, and submitted it through the ATF by a task force officer to the National NIBIN database.
Yeah.
This was in July of 2025. The same day he submitted it, he got a hit.
So amazing. Let me put my, I have to put my little dots over it. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
Where the murderer had used the same gun. This set off what I would characterize as an extraordinary chain of events involving
There we go. I think that'll work. I'm not sure. Let's see.
errors matching to serial murderer
Let me see.
Robert
I
Brasher
think that'll work.
or Brashears. So there's a murder weapon match to Brashears, there's a DNA match to Brashears, and there's an MO match to Brashears. Finally, with the court's permission, you will hear
Strange how
from the people that have been affected most profoundly by the false accusations and wrongful convictions. Some of the then boys, now men, and some of the family members will address the court and what the last 34 years has been like for them, and what this moment in time, this exoneration.
Okay, it's just
How
giving
much
me a
it
problem
means.
here. I don't understand what that is, but we'll just try to fix it.
And Ms. Fairley, would you like to?
There's no way to get rid of that right there.
May it please the court. The yogurt shop murders is unquestionably the most notorious case in the state of Texas and has been described as the case that changed Austin. Few crimes in Texas history can provoke outrage like it has. Outrage because of the nature and brutality of the cold-blooded murder of 4 innocent teenage girls. Outrage such as to the extent that many involved would do anything to solve it, including pinning the murders on 4 young boys. These were 4 normal teenage boys at the time of these murders.
Looks weird.
For the past 27 years, we on the defense have always referred to them as the boys because we've always maintained that boys could not have done this crime because their entire youth and futures were taken away from
I
them.
think maybe that'll help. I don't know.
Within weeks of the murders, Robert Springsteen and others were questioned as suspects and immediately cleared of any involvement. It wasn't 8 years later that Robert Springsteen was prosecuted. Not because of any evidence, as there was and never has been any evidence that links any of them to this crime, but because of biased and corrupted investigation. An investigation that eventually resulted in a coerced false confession. Coerced confessions where they were manipulated, lied to, and fed details. Obtained after relentless, lengthy interrogation sessions that included telling Robert that the reason he didn't remember details of the crime is because the crime was so horrible that he had psychologically blocked it from his mind.
Okay, again, for fair use, we have to stop and talk every once in a while. But see, this is exactly what I was talking about with these cops feeding this information into these guys after they're sitting there for hours and hours trying to coerce them into making a false statement, and they do. So, I mean, it's quite evident what happened here. It's really, really, here we go.
Those interrogating him then helped him recover his memory of the crime by literally feeding him the details that he eventually remembered. It was this confession of which was the sole reason for his conviction. Robert Springsteen was sentenced to death. He spent 10 years in prison and on death row, up to 23 hours a day in a cell with no human contact. Let us not forget that he could be dead right now.
Amen.
Executed at the hands
unfairly
of the state of Texas. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals reversed Robert Springsteen and Michael Scott's convictions because their constitutional Sixth Amendment rights were violated. The case was then remanded for new trials. As we began preparing for trial, DNA testing of biological materials left by the killer at the scene of the murder led to a shocking result. The DNA revealed that a full YSTR profile that matched neither Robert Springsteen nor his co-defendants, nor any of the other nearly 300 men tested either as suspects or for contamination. The district attorney eventually dismissed the case expressly because of the surprising results of this DNA testing that precludes Robert Springsteen's participation in the crime under any rational theory of the murders ever contemplated by law enforcement in the quarter of century they've had to think about this case.
That's a long time.
And although the state
That's a long
dismissed the
time.
charges, the cases remained opened, pending further investigation and hanging over all of their heads. For 27 years, Robert Springsteen and the boys have fought to clear their name, and the state has fought us on this all the way. Robert has maintained his innocence from the beginning, even when offered a deal if he would testify against the others, and he refused. When he was sentenced to death, he lost all hope. He lost hope that the real killer would ever be found, and he lost hope in the criminal justice system. The cause of this case and why we're here isn't because of just one police officer or one ADA. It is because of systemic failures perpetrated over the years by many. Robert Springsteen and the others are victims of a miscarriage of justice, where the evidence, the science, and the truth all point to their innocence. These convictions should also provoke outrage. Make no mistake, this can and will happen again unless we pay attention here. Identify the investigative failures and force our system to focus not on obtaining convictions, but on the pursuit of truth. This case needs to change Austin. It needs to change Texas. It needs to change how cases are handled.
See, I absolutely agree with her 100%. It needs to change. It needs to change. You know, we can't have this anymore. We can't have these mistakes being made. How can it be avoided? You know, that's the question. I don't know. But look how many people have been wrongly convicted, put on death row, and then had their cases overturned after sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. This is a huge problem. And I really hope that this case starts a new look at how to avoid these situations. So we're going to keep listening for a minute. I was hoping that this would be over by the time we started, but I don't think it is over yet. So here we go.
It is truly a miracle that we are here. A miracle that has come too late for Maurice Pierce and has been denied for too long for Robert Springsteen,
Sadly, one of them died.
Michael Scott, and Forrest Wellborn. We are grateful for this meaningful opportunity to establish what is demonstrably true, that Robert Springsteen and the other boys indeed are actually innocent, and ask that they be exonerated and restore their good names. Thank you.
Mr. Diaz, would you like to give an opening statement?
So just 20 minutes or so into this hearing, I mean, clearly we are listening to very powerful opening statements from.
He had his hair. And he said,
We need to talk louder.
standing tall and walking proud. And he's right there today. He's 52. Mr. Scott spent, write this number down, think about it, 4,530 days. That's more than 12 and a half years. Think about it. It's hard to follow some of the finest lawyers in the state of Texas, some of the finest trial lawyers. It's very hard. This room is full of courageous people standing up for the two quotes that I read to you. Mike Scott was incarcerated in administrative segregation. My wife asked me, "What is that?" I told her, "My love, that is what most folks refer to as in the hole, solitary confinement." And I
Terrible.
remember seeing Mike in the shackles in a cage as if he was something out of Silence of the Lambs. Don't watch that show. It's horrible, it's inhumane, it's ugly. But Mike stood tall and he walked proudly, even as he had to shuffle with the chains.
Imagine your life. You know you didn't do this. You've been sitting in jail. You're in solitary confinement. You're removed from everything and everyone in a little, I think they're 6x8 rooms. They're very, very tiny, just awaiting some judge to give you a death date for something you did not do. This has got to be extremely mentally challenging. I don't know how these guys survive this and how do they come out into the world without being mentally affected. I mean, this could have caused them some kind of mental illness that they're never going to be able to do anything about because it just took too long, way too long. It's just too sad, really. It is.
Mike was convicted in 2002. He was represented by some of the finest criminal trial lawyers in the state, if not the country. My colleague, Carlos Garcia. I'm going to say that again because the phone rang. My colleague, Carlos Garcia, from whom I owe a debt of gratitude. And my esteemed colleague, and one of the 6 best friends I have next to Mike Scott, Mr. Dexter Earl Guilford.
Let me see if it's over yet.
He was convicted in 2002, only to have that conviction reversed by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals in 2007. But what we present here today, it goes much more beyond some procedural reversal. Post-conviction DNA testing excluded Michael Scott way back in 2008. There were 19 alleles that didn't come back to Mike Scott and the boys.
Listen to that. Okay, did you hear that? Excluded Michael Scott. He was already excluded years ago, but this continued on and on and on, and he still gets convicted of something he did not do. No DNA. This is unfair, and Texas got it wrong. Absolutely, they got it wrong. I am glad this is being heard today.
The exclusion wasn't speculative. It wasn't a guess, because DNA, as we're learning more and more, is infallible. It is definitive. And on top of that, work by fine, dedicated professionals. Some of them are sitting right next to me on my left. I don't have to point at them, but they're right there. They did critical biological testing, and they did subsequent ballistic analysis, and comprehensive investigative findings have now confirmed one thing. By himself, Robert Eugene Brashers, or as fancy people say, Brashears, he committed the crimes. He killed these 4 guys.
Well, that's strong, isn't it? DNA does not lie. Now, let me tell you one, and there's another little situation here as to why it is so important that these 4, they get formally exonerated. Because if you are not exonerated completely and cleared as innocent. You cannot file a lawsuit to be compensated for being wrongly convicted, because you're still technically convicted until you're exonerated and proved innocent. So here's what's happening here. Exonerees may receive compensation ranging from $50,000 to over $80,000 per year of wrongful imprisonment, depending on the state or federal jurisdiction. While some states offer lump sums or annuities, 18 states have no composition law at all. Some of these high-profile cases have resulted in multi-million-dollar settlements for wrongful conviction. So here's some of the key components to this. Federal standards. Now, $50,000 per year of incarceration or $100,000 per year on death row. This guy, he's on death row. Texas. Now here's Texas. This is what goes to these people. Texas, $80,000 per year of wrongful incarceration, plus an annuity and $25,000 per year on parole as a registered sex offender. So if you were on parole as a registered sex offender and then you were cleared, they pay you for that as well. And I think it's fair. I do. Compensation can include tuition for higher education, reintegration services, and reimbursement for child support. Legal actions. Sometimes specialized lawsuits are required to secure additional or any compensation. And this is why we're seeing this now. It is the only way they're going to get compensated is if this happens. And I'm telling you, I think in a lot of cases, sad but true, in a lot of cases, I believe they do not follow through because they do not want to pay for their mistake. And they do not want to admit that they wrongfully convicted somebody. That's just where it is. That's, in my opinion, why. Okay, so let's go over here to this. Let's go over here to this other. Oh, come on, stop that. So here's the other question about this exoneration. Oh, hang on. I'm going to ask it. Can you get paid in Texas if you're not exonerated? There we go. And you're going to find that this happens. There's 18 states that clearly show. But here we go. I was having to look through a lot of things. In Texas, you generally cannot receive state compensation for wrongful imprisonment unless you have been formally exonerated or otherwise granted relief based on actual innocence. A simple dismissal of charges is not enough to qualify for payments under the Tim Cole Act. Okay, so that is why they're having this hearing, and that is what this is all about. It's all about this. So, to be eligible for the standard $80,000 per year of incarceration, a person must meet one of these three criteria. Pardon, receive a full pardon from the governor of Texas based on innocence. A writ of habeas corpus being granted relief through a court finding that determines the person is actually innocent. Or a prosecutorial dismissal, having charges dismissed after the prosecutor formally states in a motion that they believe the defendant is actually innocent and no credible evidence exists against him. So, alternative options. If you do not meet the actual innocence threshold for state compensation, you may still have other limited paths. Civil rights lawsuits, which are lengthy. This can take a long time. Actual innocence motions. If charges were already dismissed, you can sometimes file a separate motion to seek a formal finding of actual innocence to unlock state benefits, but though these are difficult to win. If you're found eligible through administrative processes, the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts handles these applications and these payments. So you have to have something that says you're actually innocent. Okay, we'll keep going. I just want to point that out. I'd be crying too. I would.
And Lord knows, he has to be paid for it. To a reasonable scientific certainty, those findings have been made by true professionals qualified. The Austin Police Department has publicly announced that very conclusion. The state has bravely filed, an amended motion acknowledging No credible evidence exists that inculpates Mr. Scott. That's brave, and they're to be commended for that.
He's going to tell you it's not enough. There's no credible evidence. Does not mean that you're innocent. They're not saying he's innocent. They're just simply throwing a statement out there that says, oh, well, we don't have any credible evidence now. So let's keep listening. This is part of the ploy to try to keep from having to pay these people. It's unfair.
This is not the case of insufficient evidence. It's not a case of reasonable doubt. This is a case of actual innocence. We can say those words, actual innocence. The investigation is complete. The science is conclusive. The record is clear. No reasonable juror, in light of the DNA and ballistic and investigative evidence, could ever convict Mike Scott. We respectfully ask the court to supersede the 2009 dismissal that was entered pending further investigation, and to dismiss all the causes with prejudice, and to enter formal findings declaring that the evidence now establishes beyond question that Michael James Scott is actually innocent. I have made that clarion call, and there has been a hue and a cry. Some of you protesting, release Mike, the posters. Nobody listened. Today, by the grace of God and the wisdom of our judge, Mike Scott will be declared innocent and exonerated. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Back here live, we've been listening to Tony Diaz, who has represented.
However, given my background in anthropology, they didn't have an anthropologist on staff. They had me do a dual role where anytime we actually
We're
had a skeletal
skipping past
remains
some
case,
of the
I would sort of break off from our
commentary.
normal duties and handle those cases.
And as part of the skeletal remains project, you worked with
I know it's
the
hard to hear.
DNA lab at the University of North Texas. Is that correct?
Nothing I
Yes,
can do about the sound.
That job also sort of morphed into, I began, I guess you could say, managing all the unidentified remains cases that had amassed over the years there at the ME's office. And part of that, to get those people identified,
Where he's
is
talking
working
about
with the
this
University of
particular
North Texas.
case.
And scientists sometimes call this a bias mitigating strategy. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Um,
Bias
did your
mitigation?
investigation uncover any forensic or physical evidence connecting any of the 4 murders?
No.
Did your investigation uncover any evidence connecting the 4 to Robert Brashers in any way?
No.
And your conclusion today is that the 4 were not involved in the murders, correct?
That is correct.
And you concluded that Brashers was the perpetrator based primarily on DNA, ballistics, and modus operandi evidence.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I'd ask for permission for Detective Jackson to have a narrative presentation.
Yes, you may. I'm sorry, who said no objection? No objection. Thank you. Detective, you may proceed in the narrative fashion.
Okay. Judge. Okay.
That kind of helps.
Just a little bit.
Is that better? Okay.
Thank you.
So we're going to walk you through a PowerPoint presentation here. It's very similar, but slimmed down from the press conference we held in September. And I believe the state will stop me at different points to get clarification on things. So we all know why we're here today. This is just a picture of the outside of the yogurt shop, how it looked the morning after. Looks very similar today, except it's a nail salon. But as you can see here,
They're not showing us what they're showing on the screen, and that's okay.
let's not forget today while we're here as well. 4 lives were lost tragically that night.
Oh, they are going to show it. Okay.
Eliza Thomas, Annie Ayers, Jennifer Harbison, and Sarah Harbison were brutally killed, and their families have been frozen in time for 34 years. Here's just a sort of an overall bird's eye view diagram of what the yogurt shop
I'm going
looks
to
like.
skip
It's
past part of
standard for
this
retail
because
space in a strip mall.
we all know this. What I want to get to is where they actually have the police department saying they are innocent.
Some of these DNA extracts were sent to Signature Science and a more complete profile was returned. More markers were identified, but we still didn't know who this person was.
Signature science, okay.
25 or 26 markers.
It's 25, and then at 2 loci, there's a double alleles. So, yeah, 25 to 27 markers, depending how you want to phrase it.
And
Okay.
nothing changed in terms
Let's go past this a little bit further.
So once you submit a casing into the system, it's no longer a candidate for DNA extraction because the imaging software that you put it in, it's not sterile. So it's
Oh,
DNA
interesting.
from whatever last casing was put in there. So we knew DNA was out. But in talking to our task force with the ATF here, I mentioned that it had been put in 1997 and asked if that data rolled over to the new system, to NIBIN. I said, well, it should, but whether it did or not, you should resubmit it.
Can I stop right there?
Mhm.
This is based on the premise that when bullets fired from a gun, the casings expelled.
So think about this. That sat there because it was, old. They didn't think they could get anything else off of it. They never even tried. Until recently, when he starts talking to an ATF officer and understands and realizes, oh, wait a minute, it's changed. Now we can. So all these years, again, these people are sitting in prison, running away, being accused of being a murderer, their life ruined, when this could have been fixed many years ago. They absolutely deserve the compensation. Here we go.
The casing's going to have markings on it. Is that
Oh, I
right?
wish this was louder.
Correct.
And they're going to have markings that would show the type.
DC is not working.
Yes,
Or can.
it can. The more, I guess, precise way to tell what type of gun was fired from was from the actual projectile, the bullet itself, not the spent casing. Because a bullet will have
Oh, no,
grooves,
hang on.
markings. They're unique to make and models.
And then
Okay. So it's so low and I can't turn it up anymore as part of the problem. So let me go back over here and see if I can maybe, oh boy, it's just terrible. It is low. I understand. I've been trying to get it to turn up, but it won't turn up. So there's talking low and the microphone is too far away from the guy talking, which is part of the problem here. Sorry about that, guys. Let me see if I can do anything to help that sound. Yeah, you can't even hear it. Let me see. Yeah, you can't even hear it. Hang on a second. Let me see if this works right here.
casings, though, may have individual characteristics that would be different than any other casing.
Now, I can't turn it up. It's not muted. We
You
just
can
can't
link
hear it
casings
because he's
fired
not
from
speaking
same weapon
into the
based off of
microphone.
like firing pin.
It's
stuff
too
like
far.
that.
Let me try
Microscopic
anything I can to
indications
turn it
are
up. It's
still
kind of
unique.
like, here, let me see about if this takes care of it.
Correct. So this database.
Turn it up as much
NIBIN
as I
system
can.
is kind
I'm
of
not.
like a CODIS for.
Does that help at all? Let me see if that helps at all.
The ATF sergeant, I don't think he's here today, but
It's really
he said,
low.
even if it had been submitted back then, do it again. It's not going to hurt.
Okay, I've got it on
It's not like
100.
DNA where every time you test it, you're depleting a source. The casings doesn't go away.
Okay,
So
thank you.
he said also the software has gotten so much better over the last few years. I've been almost doing like 3D modeling that the precision of the software, these images, is getting hits on cases that previously did not. So we submitted it on the morning
Okay,
of
so they
July 2nd,
resubmitted it. Hang
2025.
on just a second, guys. I'm trying to get to where you can actually hear something. Here we go. So we've talked about it's been resubmitted.
South Carolina, and they had solved that case and had a suspect.
Oh yeah, it solved some other cases, so I guess that's
This was
good.
the first time anyone had asked South Carolina to do this, so it took a couple of weeks to get it done and verify for accuracy, things like that. But they got back to us and said, this is who the profile we have belongs to. It's Robert Eugene Brashers.
Can you imagine?
Had Brashers ever been a suspect in yogurt before?
No,
you got these results?
he was nowhere in our case file.
Look at
He was
him.
nowhere in a lot of case files. But found out later.
And most of his crimes were discovered after he died in 99. Is that correct?
Yes. So I started collaborating with Tim Conroy there in Greenville, South Carolina, and he kind of went over the details of their case.
Let's go past that part and see if we can get to.
It is the same to do a direct, confirm that, and also have signature scientists tell us the population statistics. How common is this Y? And it's not very common. There's some unique markers in there.
Okay, well,
And they estimated that it only occurs in about 0.12% of the population. So, see? And
let's see. Just
fortunately, the
trying to get
woman
past some
was
of the silly
able
stuff.
to get the
Well,
door
it's not
closed.
silly, but stuff that
He
really
did fire one
has
round,
nothing to
shot
do
him
with
in the-
these three people or
and
these
they
four
fled the
people.
scene. And they were able to link, based off the description of him, They went further, investigated. The Missouri police and the Dyersburg police took the projectiles from both scenes and were able to confirm this was the same assailant.
Sort of how you were able to connect the yogurt shop casing with the Kentucky casing.
Yes.
And then that was in March of 98. And then we've got November of 98, Lexington.
Okay.
Yes.
And as
Okay, listen to this, guys. He's talking about information. I know it's hard to hear because their feed is bad, but March of 1998. This has been going on a long time that they knew that there was somebody else. There was somebody else that is so unfair.
as you described, that was a business
Wow.
that was set on fire.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then Brasher's committed suicide in January of 99.
Yes.
So I'm not going to make you go through this chart.
Okay, let's go past
This was
this
put
part
together
here,
by
because
Pam
we already
Muzak,
know
the
what he's
Texas
going to
Attorney
say.
General.
He's the person describing how they found they had the wrong people. Okay, so let's go up here and let's see. What is he still talking? Let's see.
And it's the
Let's
same
see.
handgun he was stopped with.
Yeah, it's the
oh, I
same
said-
handgun. We know that
remember.
part. Hang on
When
a
he committed
second.
suicide, he'd also been in.
Okay, let's look at this.
Thank you.
Here's the
Thank you,
conclusion
and
here.
Thank you for your investigation. I have no
Well, I wish I could read that.
Do the attorneys
If I
for
go
the
back, I
county
can.
have any questions of this witness?
Damn, it's slow.
Thank you. Detective, you may step down.
Thank you.
Okay, he's done. Next.
And this is
Here's a police officer next.
And you're
Maybe
aware
he'll
of the
speak louder.
investigation and his conclusion that Robert Brasher's committed the overshot murders.
I am.
Okay.
And you're aware
It's
that
a little better.
your cold case unit partnered with the Texas Attorney General's office in this investigation,
Yes,
and that they also conclude that Robert Brasher's committed the murders.
yes.
Is that the position of the Austin Police Department?
The position of the Austin Police Department is Robert Brashers is responsible for these murders.
Is it also your position that Michael Scott, Maurice Pierce, Forrest Welburn, and Robert Springsteen are innocent?
That is the position of the Austin Police Department.
And do you support their exonerations today?
I do support these exonerations.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do attorneys for the exonerees have any questions?
We have no questions.
Thank you.
I
Can
believe
you
that is
step down?
okay, so
At this time, we're going to take a
that is the chief of police right there who's saying, yes, that they know for a fact now that the other guy did it, and she fully supports the exoneration of the people charged that were wrongfully convicted, which is a win for these people. It is a win. I'm so glad to hear that they're actually saying what is the facts here. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. They need an applause right here. I need an applause for this. Amen, amen. Yes, we do. All right. So we'll go back up here and we'll get past this. They're taking a break, but we'll get past it. Okay, here's the next person. It's a panel. Maybe we can hear them talk. Gosh, it's
What
so
was
low.
your reaction?
Well, I think that so many of us in Austin who've lived here a long time really were interested in this because it's the final page in this horrible dark chapter in our city's
Yes,
history.
ma'am.
But the impressions that I'm left with so far is that these are deep connections between these attorneys and their clients. I mean, Tony Diaz has represented Michael Scott since 1999. I don't want to forget about the victims of this
Yes,
crime and all of
yes.
this. I mean, when covering this case, we all interviewed the families and our hearts were broken for them. And these men were wronged. And I don't want to forget that because they're righting that wrong today. But at the same time, I want to make sure that also front and center are the girls who lost their
Yes.
lives that day. And in many ways, there were 8 victims of this horrible
There sure
crime.
was.
And the ripple effects too. Their family, obviously the parents of the girls, the families of these 4 men who were teenagers at the time.
16 for Maurice Pierce with that gun
Yes,
at the mall. I mean, a
yes.
16, imagine a 16-year-old, they don't have the wherewithal to represent themselves, you know.
Exactly. And Lindsay, similarly, I mean, from a legal perspective, we know that hearings like this, these actual innocence hearings are highly unusual. So we don't, from a legal standpoint, get an insight into these types of wrongs that happen, we know, in our justice system.
That's exactly right. We rarely see a full hearing.
Okay, hang on. We're gonna move past that. Yeah, we do. You hardly ever see this because they realize once they do this, they have to pay these guys. These guys now become the victim.
And
They are a victim now.
the thing I'm most excited about as far as the hearing is concerned
How
is
young he
also
was.
drawing attention, and I believe we heard Amber fairly talk about this, is drawing attention to the tactics and the investigation and how it
Thank
was
you,
used
yes.
to essentially get false confessions, what we
Thank
now
you.
know are false confessions from these 4 men, and making sure we're paying attention to that. How did that happen? You know, these tactics are still being used, so it's something we need to be discussing.
Judy, I know that at the time, certainly at the time of the murder, has been in the
Change is crucial, absolutely crucial. I'm afraid it's going to be too loud now, like I'm talking too loud, because when I come off of here, because I have it on 100 because it's so low through their feed. So y'all just let me know if I'm blasting your ears off. So sorry.
in the subsequent years. Can you just talk about the amount of public interest in finding the person or persons who was responsible? Because part of what happened, according to the defense attorneys and even modern day Austin police personnel, is that much of this investigation was just driven by emotion instead of the facts, and just a real community desire and a law enforcement desire to find who did it.
It's hard to imagine today the type of attention and the glare of the media that happened during this time, because we'd never really been through a crime like this. This, as the mayor at the time, who was the current mayor, Kirk Watson, said, Austin lost its innocence. So we had this crime, this horrific crime where 4 young innocent girls were killed. Everyone wanted it solved. There were billboards, there were marches, everybody got together and sang a song, "We Shall Not Forget." So I think there was a lot of pressure on police to find these suspects. There was a lot of botched police work at the beginning. Thank God they got that DNA. You know, John Jones and Mike Huckabee sat there and said, we're going to wait for DPS to get here on the crime scene so we can get that DNA. And that ended up solving this case. But it's hard to comprehend now how deeply we felt connected to these girls and their families, especially those of us who were honored to be able to talk to the families and share their stories. So when this conviction came down at Springsteen, I was in the courtroom the day Springsteen was convicted of the murder, we all felt the sense of relief. We thought, done. The DA at the time, Rosemary Lindbergh, the families, everybody thought, this is the person who did it. These 4 guys were guilty.
Justice is being served.
Justice is being served. And we did not know that they had been coerced into these confessions by police.
Lindsay, I know that this phenomenon of coerced confessions, I mean, as
I don't know if this is possible, but I've often wondered if maybe every police department should have a review of interviews between suspects and police to make sure there was no coercion before it is used as a tool to convict somebody of a crime that maybe they did not commit. Because had they watched this interview and really listened to it and thought about what the detective was saying to these guys, they would have realized, wait a minute, something's wrong with this. I think there should be some way for each police department, and I know it's a little bit expensive, but it is far cheaper than paying people who are wrongly convicted many years down the road if you stop it before it happens. That's all I'm going to say about that. Here we go.
we sit here today, just normal citizens, we think, who would confess to a crime they didn't commit? And yet we know it happens.
It happens all the time. And we certainly know it happens. And I think I was talking to you guys about this earlier, but there is a comparison, I believe, in this case to that Central Park 5 case that happened in New York. Race played more of an issue in that particular case, but it was the same thing where there was a murder of a female and 5 of these young men, boys at the time, confessed. And so it's hard to wrap your brain around the idea that anyone could have a false confession, but we do now know it happens all the time. And I will say, I do believe exactly what we're talking about, that the desperation of wanting to solve this case probably tainted a lot of the objectivity for law enforcement. But if we remember the late 90s, early 2000s, we didn't know what we know now about false confessions. And so they really believed if they confessed, certainly they did it. So I don't think
because
there was—
why would you?
Why would you? And they didn't understand that the way that we do now. And so I don't think there was this, nefarious, evil intention to falsely accuse anyone. I think that they believed if they confessed, it must be true.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to kind of agree with her a little bit on that because, and you also, these are very young kids. These are young guys that are accused of this. And in their mind, well, I'm just going to say whatever and go home. That's you're talking about some very immature people. And, this is, I agree with her on this. I don't think it was nefarious. I think it was just, well, they said it, it must be true. And then you get this in front of juries, and it's like, well, they said it, it must be true, with no thought that they could actually say something that wasn't true just to get the hell out of there, not realizing, oh no, now you're going straight to jail because you've just admitted that you took somebody's life when you really didn't. So I don't know how much longer I can stay on this. Let me see if they went back to the hearing yet. Hold on. I don't know how long the break is going to be. Okay, it looks like okay, wait, let's go right here. There we go. All right, here's the next part of it. I hope she's speaking louder. Oop, go.
For the alleged involvement in the December 6, 1991 murders of 4 innocent girls: Amy Ayers, Eliza Thomas, and Jennifer and Sarah Harbison at the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt Shop in North Austin, Travis County, Texas. From the date of my arrest, I adamantly asserted that I was innocent, which only fell on deaf ears due to a coerced confession with no actual evidence of my involvement. My life from that moment of being arrested was turned into chaos and uncertainty after being sentenced to death and placed on death row as an innocent man accused of such a heinous crime I allegedly committed when I was barely 17 years old.
Okay, stop right there.
After being released in 2009.
He was barely 17 years old. He wasn't even an adult. He was treated as if he was an adult, but he was barely even 17 years old. Imagine how a 17-year-old thinks. Here we go. And it is very low. There's nothing I can do about the sound. I'm sorry.
I have been persecuted every single day by the public and law enforcement, continually being seen as an alleged murderer in their eyes. I have lived every single day since October the 6th, 1999, being seen as a monster for something I did not do. I have suffered 27 years of persecution, repeated harassment, and of trying to exist and survive in this world, which has been a constant daily struggle. 10 of those 27 years being in prison and on death row, kept in solitary confinement with only 1 hour a day to be out of my cell, all while being innocent. Now, new DNA and ballistic evidence affirms my actual innocence and that Robert Eugene Brashears was the sole perpetrator. I pray this court will find that no credible evidence exists against me by granting a full exoneration and deem me actually innocent of the crime wrongfully accused of 27 years ago. Sincerely, Robert Springsteen IV.
That's incredible.
Are they all reading statements?
That was, we've been listening to Amber Fairley, who represents Robert Springsteen, sentenced to death.
This is a statement of Forrest Brooke Welburn to this honorable court. My name is Forrest Brooke Welburn. Because of the many emotions that I have today, I've asked my lawyer to read my statement. Only 4 weeks after these 4 girls were killed on December 6, 1991, I was made a suspect in what has become known as the Austin Yogurt Shop murders. Almost 8 years later, on October 6, 1999, I was arrested and charged with killing these 4 girls. Before I talk about the effect these accusations have had on my life, I have to say that I feel so sorry for the families of the victims of this horrible crime. It must be a terrible thing to lose a child, especially in such an awful way. I wish them peace and a chance for closure now that the true killer has been identified. From the very beginning, and for almost 35 years since I was first accused of this crime, I have always maintained my innocence. I have never claimed or said that I was involved in the murders in any way, because I wasn't. I have never said that Maurice or Michael or Robert committed the murders. The testimony given by Detective Dan Jackson here in court today conclusively shows that I'm innocent of this crime. His testimony also shows that Maurice, Michael, and Robert are innocent of the crime. Detective Jackson's testimony proves that I have always told the truth. When the murders happened, I was 15 years old. At that time, I had only one person who I would call a friend. That was Maurice Pierce. The Austin Police Department detectives put so much pressure on Maurice to confess, more pressure than Maurice could handle. So the person I thought was my best friend told the APD detectives that I was involved in this crime. I believe that Maurice said this just so the APD detectives would let up on him. I believe Maurice was scared to death. The APD detectives made my best friend implicate me in this heinous crime, and I lost the one friend that I had. Despite being innocent of this crime and having nothing whatsoever to do with it, my life was dramatically changed long before I was arrested in 1999. Once I was made a suspect in 1992, I was unable to continue going to school. I tried twice to complete the 8th grade, but was unable to continue attending school because of the things that people said to me
Eighth grade.
and about me and how they treated me because they believed that I was one of the killers. Because I was made a suspect in these murders, I lost the opportunity to obtain an education.
This
I
is
also lost the
horrible.
opportunity to have a normal social life. As soon as someone knew that I was accused of this crime, they would stop talking to me and alienate me. Some people have even become hostile toward me, believing that the accusations against me were true. Because I was accused of this crime, I lost the opportunity to have a relationship or start a family of my own. Relationships I've had over the years have maybe lasted 6 months at the most. Not only did I lose the opportunity to get an education or have any kind of a social life, I have also been frequently harassed by law enforcement officers, especially in Travis County and Caldwell County. Not long after the murders happened, APD detectives would pick me up as I was walking to school in order to interrogate me and try to convince me that I was guilty of a crime I had nothing to do with. I was just a 15-year-old kid when I was first accused. I had no idea what rights I had. The APD detectives knew I was a minor, but didn't tell me I had the right to have my parents and a lawyer present when they questioned me. Even though they knew or should have known not to question me without my parents or lawyer present, they did anyway. They knew that because I was a child, I would comply with their demands and answer their questions. On one instance, APD detectives even took me to the burned remains of the yogurt shop and tried to convince me to confess that I committed the crime. They knew or should have known that their actions were violations of my civil rights.
You know, I just wonder if he can now, even if he gets paid by the state of Texas for wrongful conviction, if he can actually go back and sue the Austin Police Department for harassment. Um, I mean, he was 15 years old. 15 years old. And they were picking him up, taking him in, questioning him, and all this other stuff. They ruined his education. They ruined his life. This is absolutely terrible.
They knew or should have known that their actions were wrong. Through the 35 years since I first was accused of these crimes,
35
harassment by law
years.
enforcement became my norm. On most occasions, for example, when I've been pulled over, usually for no reason or minor traffic offense, I've been asked to remain in my vehicle by the officer pulling me over so the officer could obtain backup. When the backup officer would arrive, both officers would typically approach my vehicle with weapons drawn.
Oh, God.
In addition to being pulled over for no reason, I've been wrongfully detained and beaten by police officers on numerous occasions. After having to quit school, I had to find a way to make a living. I enjoy working on cars and motorcycles, so I started a repair shop in Lockhart. But like the law enforcement officers in Travis County, the Lockhart police seemed to believe that because of the accusations against me, they were authorized to harass me, and they did. It was commonplace when I lived in Lockhart to be pulled over by law enforcement almost once a week. I was periodically arrested on no evidence and incarcerated, even though the law enforcement officers knew or should have known that my conduct was not
That's
criminal.
awful.
As you can imagine, it was impossible to develop a good reputation as a businessman when I was being arrested on a regular basis. I tried to develop my repair shop at 2 locations in Lockhart. My efforts ended when I was arrested in 1999 after formal charges were made against me by the Travis County District Attorney's Office. On the day of my arrest, I was taken from my place of business without even being given the opportunity to lock the doors to my shop. By the time my family was able to raise the bond to get me out of jail, and I was able to get back to my shop, all my tools had been stolen. Over the last 35
That's
years,
awful.
I've tried different jobs. Because of the accusations against me, I found it difficult to keep jobs because of my undeserved reputation. So I've tried to find jobs where I work for myself. When I could not find work, I've had to live on the streets or out of my car. I've had to go my entire life being treated as a guilty murderer by the public and by law enforcement. I'm thankful that today I'll be declared innocent of a crime I had nothing to do with. Despite the fact that actual murder has been identified and that there's no support or evidence to support the belief, unfortunately, in the minds of some, I will always be thought of as a murderer. This is wrong, but it's the life that I have to live. In closing, I want to thank Detective Jackson for solving this crime. I hope that the work in solving this crime brings peace to the families of the girls. I'm hopeful that being declared innocent of this crime today brings peace to me too. Thank you.
Oh, gosh.
Mr. Gibson, do you have a witness you would like to call?
See, that's the truth of the matter right there. What's happened to this young man right here? Well, he's not young anymore. It's 35 years later. He was 15, 35 years plus. I mean, look at him. He's 50 years old now. He's finally going to be able to start a life, I guess. I mean, this is horrific. How many other people did Texas get it wrong on? That is the question.
That was attorney Steve Goodson, who has essentially become.
Let's see who else. Here's somebody else
Would
talking.
tell them what they needed to hear. Not the truth, but what they needed to hear. His dad and I were in the room when that offer was made, but later in court it was denied that a plea offer was ever given him. Forrest was 15 when first questioned in this case. He was also approached by detectives parked on the street as he walked to school, told to get in and go for a ride. He was questioned then, still 15 years old, without his parents' knowledge. Being so young, he didn't know he could decline. He was also devastated about these murders, afraid of what had happened in his neighborhood to girls his age and some from his school. And he wanted to be helpful. He knew he had nothing to do with it, so thought it could only help to cooperate. But from that moment, his life changed. Over many years, detectives subjected Forrest and his family to pressure, insisting we say that he confessed and that he was involved. It was heartbreaking, frustrating, and downright scary to see Forrest suffer for the rest of childhood and his entire adult life. I could feel his anxiety, depression,
Yes, ma'am,
stress,
Cinderella, it
and
sure
anger,
does.
and it was hard for him to trust
And
anyone. These emotions trickled down to
how many
all
years
his
back does this
relationships
go?
throughout these 34 years
Of doing this to
affecting every
people?
aspect of his life. He constantly had strangers approach him about the case, most often unpleasant encounters. He also lost relationships and friendships over the years. The knowledge that much of the public and even some extended family and friends believed the story that he was involved weighed heavy on all of us. When arrested, Forrest was issued a $1 million bond. He called me later that day and asked me to please bond him out, that he couldn't stay there. It broke my heart to remind him how much the bond was and that there was no way I could get the money to get him out.
No, there was
he
no
called
way.
me as often as possible from jail, short, heart-wrenching.
When they set that bond, they absolutely knew there was no way that family could come up with that kind of money to bond him out. It was purposeful. This is horrific.
Calls. I wrote to him daily, trying to keep his spirits up by telling him that tons of people were praying for him. After the arrest, I had constant worry and fear. At one point, I started having nightmares, sometimes about the investigating detectives, sometimes about mobs coming to my house to lynch me. I lost a lot of sleep during this scary time. It seemed so real, and I never knew what would come next when I tried to sleep. My privacy was invaded, and I felt my safety at risk. I was married when Forrest was arrested, but the stress and emotions were too much. We separated and later divorced. I ended up taking a second job to pay the bills and continued working 2 jobs for 18 years. What kept me going were prayers, family, especially my daughter, India, my other son, Eric, my sister, Donna, and my mom, Charlotte. I persevered knowing that I needed to be strong for Forrest and his son, my grandson. But it took a heavy toll on my health, my well-being, and my relationships. Forrest experienced betrayal of having his tools stolen from his shop when he was in jail, causing him to have to close the business. He worked on cards from his house for anyone who was willing to still do business with him. Bills still had to be paid. I've seen him do any kind of work he could think of just to make money to live. He drove an 18-wheeler for a short time. He worked for any type of construction. I've seen him struggle so much. For a time, he was homeless, sleeping in his car, even in cold winter.
Oh.
He moved to Lubbock and then Ohio to try to make a new start, but neither worked out long-term, away from the support of his family. He's tried hard to make a life for himself, usually working for himself, a lonely life. This case just never would go away, though. And that reduced his opportunities for employment and impacted working conditions. I'm so proud that he has never given up under these hardships. Forrest and his sister, my daughter India, were very close. Her entire adult life was haunted by the false accusations against her brother and worries about what could happen to him. She was in nursing school when he was arrested. She heard someone say, "Did you see they arrested Jesus?" Because Forrest had long hair back then. And then the whispers and glances started. Under that public scrutiny and fear for her brother's life, she had a breakdown. She pulled out of school just weeks before she would become a registered nurse, never returning to nursing school. She, like me, constantly worried about something happening.
I mean, see, it's not only just the people that are wrongly convicted, it's their families, all of their families, their brothers, their sisters, their parents, their grandparents. I mean, and Lockhart is a very small town in Texas, okay? So, I mean, being in that small town and constantly, every time you walked out the door, somebody's making some statement that you're a murderer, you did this, you did that. Maybe it was you that sexually abused that child, one of the girls or whatever happened in that crime. How do you keep going forward? The guy was very, very strong to be able to keep doing this. And yes, you cannot get a job in a small town like that when everybody is accusing you. The sad thing is, they still, even after today, they will have people that will still accuse him. Oh, You know, they didn't get it right. They still haven't convicted anybody. Well, you can't convict the dead person. I mean, oh, it's terrible.
To him
Just terrible.
legally or as a vigilant act of vengeance. Her concerns for force were very real and affected her deeply. We, especially Forced in India,
wish they'd
felt
speak
someone
louder.
was watching and following him for years. And just 6 years ago, even after the DNA test showed no links to the boys, he was approached by detectives as he made his daily stop for a breakfast taco and a monster drink. They called him over to their car, the detectives did, to discuss the yogurt shop
Again.
case. During that time, India was telling us someone was watching the house. Police records confirmed she was right. When Maurice was killed, the fear was even stronger. Forrest told me he was routinely being pulled over by officers for no reason, sometimes once a week. He called me and said, "Mama, they're trying to Maurice me." I saw for myself the harassment he was experiencing when one day we had to switch vehicles so he could work on mine. His car had dark tinted windows. As I drove from his house to mine,
That's awful.
I was pulled over without cause. I waited until the officer got to the door before rolling down the window. The look of shock on his face when he saw who was driving told me everything Forrest said was true. The officer fumbled trying to find a bogus reason for stopping me. Over the years, detectives and media showed up unannounced at Forrest's home, his place of business, and his dad's house. Between detectives, media, and other people reacting to media reports, it just never stopped being an oppressive part of our lives. I'm grateful every day that his calm kept him alive through this persecution. How different could our lives have been without these false accusations, arrests, public suspicion, and being stalked by detectives and media? How much better would
Now
Forrest's
listen to
life
this.
be
This
today
is sad. Okay,
without
hang on
these
just a
struggles
second.
and stress?
So making a statement that he thought he was going to be Maurice. Well, let me tell you what happened to Maurice. Maurice Pierce was shot and killed by Austin police officer Frank Wilson during a traffic stop on December 23rd, 2010. I understand why he was afraid. Absolutely. Officer Wilson and Brad Smith attempted to pull Pierce over for running a stop sign. You run a stop sign and then you're shot and killed. How does that make sense? The pursuit. Pierce fled on foot after stopping his vehicle. Of course he was afraid. Look what he'd been through every time he turned around over the yogurt shop murders. Officer Wilson caught up with Pierce and a physical struggle ensued. During the fight, Pierce grabbed a standard issue knife from Wilson's duty belt and slashed the officer across the throat, severing his carotid artery and trachea. Despite his life-threatening injuries, Officer Wilson was able to draw his handgun and fire a single fatal shot at Pierce. Pierce was pronounced dead at the scene, and Officer Wilson survived after undergoing surgery. So he starts with running a stop sign. No, I don't blame the person for being afraid for his life.
His entire adult life. How much better would his sister, brothers, son, and parents' lives have been without the endured worry for our loved one for 34 years? There are so many victims, so many lives harmed for so long. Of course, we wanted these murders to be solved, but not at the lifelong expense of innocent lives. On August 5th of last year,
and now that they have been, since Maurice was named in this as in being exonerated as well, his family can now go back and sue and actually be rewarded for what has happened. They are victims now.
My daughter India was dying from brain cancer. She privately told me that when she got to heaven, she was going to find out who the killer was, and she would make sure we and everyone knew who it was, so Forrest's name would finally be cleared. She passed away on September 14th. On September 29th, we got the news that DNA had identified the man who truly committed the murders. India
Okay,
kept
this
her
is going to make me
promise
cry.
to us from heaven, our sweet angel, always looking out for her baby brother. Thank you.
She died September the 14th. September the 29th, they got the news that they actually did find the DNA belonged to Mr. Bashir's. That is beautiful and sad all at the same time. Here we go. Keep going here.
Mr. Diaz.
Just absolutely wrenching testimony from Sharon
past this.
Pollard,
They're
the
talking
mother
here.
of.
fact that
I
it
think this is the
impacted
final
all of
witness.
their
I'm not
lives
sure.
in profound
December
ways.
6, 1999.
It's hard to even
so hard to
comprehend
hear
when,
'em.
when you see a hard cop like
Did not commit those
Dan
crimes.
Jackson
I had no
crying.
involvement
Yeah.
in them.
And now on the stand, we have Michael Scott,
Okay.
one of the
Yes.
assailants.
Every
wow.
day since.
This is Michael Scott.
8 years later, on October 6th. Oh, yeah, 8 years, October 6th, 1999, when I was 25 years old, I was accused, tried, and wrongfully convicted.
Oh, I wish
I
you'd
was
speak
sentenced
up.
to life in prison. On June 6, 2007, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals overturned that wrongful conviction due to serious constitutional violations. While I was awaiting a new trial, DNA testing on March 18, 2008 excluded me and the other wrongfully accused individuals in this case. Today,
Think about that. 2008 excluded him. Excluded him. He should have been exonerated right then. This is horrible.
more than 26 years later, modern forensic science again conclusively confirms that what I have always maintained. I had nothing to do with these crimes. The evidence identifies Robert Eugene Brashear, a known serial killer, and is the sole person responsible. He is someone I've never met.
Oh,
I lost my family, I lost my youth, I lost my early adulthood. My daughter was just 3 years old when I was arrested. We had just celebrated our first wedding anniversary. I lost the chance to build a life with my family. When I was finally released, the relationship I once had with my wife just wasn't there. That ultimately led to our divorce. For decades, I have carried the burden of wrongful conviction. Every day, I have carried the weight of a crime I did not commit. No court ruling can return the years and the love that were taken from me, but it can acknowledge the truth. I am not guilty. Your Honor, I respectfully ask the court to formally recognize my innocence and allow the record to reflect the evidence now confirms that I did not commit these crimes.
Michael,
Thank you for your time, ma'am.
I'm going to ask you a few questions about some exhibits.
why?
Is that going to be okay?
Sure.
I'm going to have to do it with the judge's permission from that little machine, and the deputy's going to help me. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
See how much longer this one is. Oh, a few minutes. All right. I don't want to have to cut it short too early for my other live. Hang on. Oh, come on. Let's just talk now. Okay. I believe he's asking now. Oh, we can't hear him. Damn it.
That's myself.
Okay.
I guess I was 16 years old. I'm getting ready to go to probably a concert, an orchestra concert that I would perform. I was in orchestra in school, so I was probably dressed up to go perform.
Oh, my.
I think so.
I'll show you what's
Yeah, we can't hear the questions. So sad.
That's
Aw.
that was our wedding. 98. That's Grandma Scott. The lady in blue.
Let's see if it gets where we can kind of hear something. Let me move past that for a second.
Yes, sir. You have.
Okay. Hope we can hear something.
That was the letter submitted to TDC, the TDCJ, on how much time, I believe, what occurred. That's the basic synopsis of my time spent inside, I believe.
How many days was it?
I'm going to show you now Exhibit 8. Now, Exhibit 8 is a compilation of documents.
It's upside down, please.
Oh, gosh, this is so hard.
Yeah, you showed me this about 2 weeks ago. That's part of your intake for Gurney, I would guess. That's my intake paperwork.
And it shows all these pages attached to Exhibit A.
Yeah.
What is it telling us?
All the places that I spent time in, all the units that I traveled to.
Hang on a second.
Not commit.
I'm skipping past that because we cannot hear the questions. We can only hear his answers. Who's this?
My name is Lisa McLean. I'm Michael's mother.
Oh.
In December 1991, Austin was shattered by the devastating news of the yogurt shop murders. At the time, Mike was 17 years old, attending he went to McCallum High School and just living his teenage life. In October 1999, my world was shattered when my son was arrested for the murders. I knew then, as I've always known, he did not commit the crimes he was accused of. The years that Michael was incarcerated took a heavy toll on him and our family. There were times when I wasn't sure that we were all going to make it through this living nightmare. It was just, even though we knew the truth, it was hard showing that truth to the courts and proving it to them. Today, thank you very much, scientific evidence has done that. I want to thank the court for recognizing my son's innocence and for allowing this matter to be resolved. Thank you, Your Honor.
Lisa, before you step down, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Where did you come in from to testify here today? Where did you
Brady,
come in?
I live in Brady, Texas.
Came from Brady, Texas?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I passed the witness, Your Honor.
That's a long way. From Brady to Austin.
Again, we've listened, we've heard
Your Honor, just
testimony
on behalf
from
of
Michael
Mike
Scott and now both of his.
Does anybody else speak? Oh, here we go. I think this is the judge. Is it not? No, it's somebody else. Hang on.
Of his arrest, trial, and incarceration.
Oh, the parents.
I never had been given reason to believe that he committed these crimes, and our family has always maintained his innocence, even when we couldn't yet prove it. But the confirmation of the forensic evidence now gives us a clarity and finality of something that our family has waited so long to see.
35 years.
And I thank the court to now reflect the truth. Michael is innocent. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Debbie. Your Honor, on behalf of Mike.
Okay. Oh, I think there's just a couple of more.
I appreciate the forensic evidence now establishes what I have known all along.
I'm glad she's speaking up.
And hope that the court will set the record straight to accurately reflect Michael's innocence. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Your Honor, we have no further witnesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ware, do you wish to call any witnesses? Yes, Your Honor.
Trying to get past it.
How I envisioned my husband's life ending. Maurice and I thought we would grow old together.
Oh, this is Maurice's
Instead,
wife.
Our future was stolen by the Austin Police Department and a system that chose a narrative over the truth. Maurice's family moved from Houston to Austin for a better place to raise their children. I wish it would have been the safer place they hoped for. Instead, it was the worst thing that would have happened to Maurice and would ultimately lead to his death. As teenagers, just 15 and 16 years old, we were questioned by APD without our parents' knowledge or an attorney present. Maurice was held for 48 hours and subjected to aggressive interrogation tactics conducted by Hector Polanco, including being shown graphic photos of the girls and falsely being told that the gun he had was the murder weapon. I was only questioned after showing up at the police station when being told they were supposedly looking for
I have to go past this because I have another live scheduled at noon to talk about the other wrong, where Texas is wrong on Robert Robertson. It is 11:35 a.m. So I'm trying to get through this so we can actually go to our other live.
Lindsay
Please
Richards,
join me on my other
defense
live.
attorney, and Judy Maggio, former anchor here at KView, joining us again.
What is the judge? Is the judge
shown to a frightened teenager who was lied to and manipulated, and not just harmless human error, but intentional corruption.
Okay, guys.
Wondering what kind of suffering
It is intentional corruption.
drives a strong and good man to say he would rather die than ever return to such a place.
Oh man, this is heartbreaking.
After his release in 2003, the harassment did not stop. Police followed him, watched him, treated him as a suspect.
They sure did. Okay, let me see where this ends. Okay, we're almost to the end right here.
The world grew darker for me the moment APD took my innocent father into custody.
Oh, that's his daughter.
And again, when I saw him chained for the first time behind glass.
Oh my gosh.
And again, when I saw him in a courtroom for the first time. And again, when I hugged him in a small room with chains on his feet after years of only touching glass. And again, when a cop forced me inside as he proceeded to harass my father and throw him on top of his car. And again, and again, and again, until the last time. My world didn't just alter. It completely shattered. To listen to the sounds of my daddy, someone I completely love and adore, live his absolute worst fear, and then to share those last moments with him unknowingly, it's completely shattered me. This was not justice. This was institutional failure. And the cost of that failure was my father's life, his dignity, and his future. My father paid the price. I did not get to see my father live in a world where everyone finally knows what he had been saying all along, that he was innocent. I did not get to see his relief. I did not get to see his peace. To the families of Eliza, Amy, and Sarah and Jennifer, my heart breaks for you and your girls. My father's heart broke for you and your girls. There are no words I can offer, but I will hold you in my prayers for the rest of my days. To the Austin Police Department, the DA's office, and to Paul Johnson, your tunnel vision stole my daddy's future.
Oh God.
You took his peace, his freedom, his dignity, and his life. My father was not a headline. He was not a ringleader or a mastermind, as your story would have it. He was an innocent boy, an innocent man, who was good to his very bones, and who mattered. Words to describe how incredible of a human being, how amazing of a father he was will never be enough.
There's like 25 seconds left. Sorry,
I'll miss
guys.
him for the rest of my life because of your tunnel vision. I thank God every day that I was able to experience a father's love that has no end, a love I can still feel to this day. I thank God for the sweet glimpses of him I see in my children. I may not see justice fully realized here on this earth for him, but I know that I'm not alone. There are countless other families carrying similar grief and unanswered questions, the same wounds left behind by an institution that refuses to correct itself. Unchecked power cannot continue. Tunnel vision cannot continue. Accountability must come. Reform is coming. It has to. And finally, the man who made me who I am today, my best friend, my daddy. Daddy, you have your name back. The world finally hears what you were trying to say all along. Daddy, I love
you. Okay, guys. So that is the end of that hearing, and I have to stop watching. It's gonna make me cry. It's incredible. Anyway, so They are going to be exonerated here. They're going to be able to file their lawsuits. They're going to get what they deserve, which is to be paid by the state of Texas. They don't get their life back, but by God, they can make whatever life they have left better. Not that money solves everything, but they are now exonerated. They did not do this. The whole world knows they did not do this, that they are innocent. So I'm going to turn this down now because I had to turn it way up, because of that. And I know it's extremely loud. All right, there we go. So anyway, I'm going to have to call it right now. I'm going to have to say goodbye. So we can come back and do our other live on Robert Robertson and where the state of Texas got it wrong once again. So see, I mean, and they use junk science. And in the next case we're going to talk about, it was junk science that caused this to happen. So anyway, okay, I'm going to turn this off right now, take a short break, and I'll see y'all back at noon to talk about Robert Robertson and the state of Texas. So please share, like, and subscribe. My channel has got a slow growth going on right now, and that's okay. We'll get it going. So anyway, I'll see y'all in about 20 minutes. Bye, guys.